What is it about inside the NBA that you think has helped it last 3 decades?
Unpredictability, spontaneity, unscripted nature of it, freewheeling. You know, it's like, I think for a lot of shows, Craig, it's, you know, there's a production meeting, everybody gets on the same page, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're going to do in the second segment. These guys are not invited to the production meeting. Not that they'd want to go, but they're not. They're not invited to the production meeting because the only people who need to know kind of the direction the show is going to go are the producers and me and our graphics folks and all that. I just want to know what we got in the saddlebags. If we're going to spring something on Shaq, you know, late at night, he doesn't need to know that in a production meeting and prepare himself. And so I think the fact that we're just going to kind of wing it, and I know what we have at our disposal, but that gives you genuine reactions from Charles and Kenny and Shaq as the night goes on of, I'm throwing this at you, let me see what you think. And, or, hey, this is the anniversary of when Shaq did this or Charles did this, and we're going to throw that video out at some point.
Or we'll just
but we don't want them to know.
Or they'll just Charles and Shaq. Charles mostly would say, "We're not doing that either. We're gonna talk about Martha Stewart and how she got a new show with whatever it comes in his head, he kind of does."
Well, Craig, I think that people have to understand we're on from 8 o'clock to 2 in the morning. Nobody wants to talk about basketball for 6 straight hours.
It's true.
To me, I think that's the genius of the show. Okay, so we're like, okay, we're gonna get a certain percentage who like basketball.
Yeah.
But how can we relate and make other people want to watch? Because listen, it's a long night. First of all, we got great jobs, not complaining. But to be on for 6 hours, how do we keep people interested for 6 hours? And I think that's where we like, okay, we're going to talk some serious basketball.
Yeah.
But how do we make it fun for the people sitting at home?
Is it true?
But I think the most important thing is the validity. What I mean by that is, you mentioned you've been on 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's already a highly watched show. Ernie is Ernie. He's a godfather. Charles is a Hall of Famer. So any basketball fan knows, obviously he knows what he's talking about. Kenny, 2-time back-to-back champion. You have myself. So a lot of fans know that when we do start talking about basketball, we know what we're saying. We're valid in our points. And the fact that they allow us to utilize humor. Like, if you're looking at these 4, you probably think Charles is the funniest and I'm the second funniest. You're wrong. Ernie is the funniest man in the world. I'm telling you. Ernie Johnson is the funniest man on earth, and you wouldn't even know it.
Craig, I just got to pick my spots. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there were times. But look, I'm a little. I know I can throw something out to these guys when we finished a show, and I'll throw a line out at these guys, and they'll laugh. And I said, I'm not going to say that on the air.
Yeah,
I'll say it to you guys.
That's what drives.
But he'll say it on the air. He'll say it on the air.
There have been things that I've said that get repeated by him or him or him, and it was like, no, if I had gone ahead and said that, then
I think if Ernie didn't have that sense of humor, we would probably be a little more professional.
But the show's perfectly cast.
It is.
It's perfectly cast. Not knocking other people who come in and out and who've been on the show. But I read somewhere that you thought at one point, maybe 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons. Is that true?
Well, I told Ernie when I got there, he pulled me aside. He said, how long are you going to be here? I said, I'll be here a couple years. And I said, then I'm moving on. And now I'm on year 19, and I love my job. It's different every week. It's different every week. That's the beauty of sports. Like, every game is different. There's always something happening. But to be honest with you, Craig, the people behind the scenes. First of all, I think the best thing about us, we're all idiots. We make fun. Like, I got no problem. They put my head on some of the funniest things in the world. We've done things about Kenny and Shaq. Like, they make us. We can take a joke.
Yeah, Craig. When we started the show, and Charles in his first year was pretty big. You know, it was like they'd take that wide. They would take that wide shot of the set, and Chuckster was like spilling out over the edge of the set. And so he said, "I'm going to get back to my playing weight." He actually let us weigh him on the air periodically, and you realize how many former players and not to mention former Hall of Famers would say, no, I'm drawing the line. You can't make fun of me. You can't do this. I'm not going to put myself up to that. But we have these guys here. Everything has been fair game, and I think if you can't laugh at yourself, man, and I think again that's why the show has worked, because nobody tries to make the show about them, and nobody has ever said, "Oh no, you can't say that, or you can't bring that up." These guys. He's the greatest sport of all time. So not only did he change the landscape of like studio shows when he came aboard with us, he just made it okay for us to look at him and say, hey, this is going to be pretty funny if we can put you on the scale, and he did it, and it finally got down to his playing weight. But there have been times too. We'll do a show and we'll start it off with a tight shot of Shaq's tie because he spilled some dinner on it. It's like other places. It's like, oh, somebody fixed his tie. He spilled something. Otherwise, but for us, we come on.
Anything.
No,
don't let him know. He's got something on his tie.
Yeah, so we come on the air.
He's got something on his tie.
Yeah,
But you're right. I mean, that's the magic. Like, you take the work obviously very seriously, but you don't take yourselves too seriously.
No, you can't.
There was one night, and by the way, I'm a devoted viewer.
Thank you.
Love the pranks. That's my favorite part of the show. When you guys have the pranks. But there was one night, and my younger brother called. He's like, hey, I think Shaq was going to get up and go after Charles. You remember this was?
Oh, first of all, that was legit.
That was legit.
That was legit. You were really pissed.
1 to 2 to 3 to this, not 1 to 2 to 1.
Wait, Shaq, you were really mad.
It didn't look. You didn't look.
I tell everybody this story. So me and Charles had an incident in Houston where we had a fight. As soon as I get to the locker room, it's a phone. Somebody want to talk to you. It was Charles' mother on 3A with my mother. And they had been best friends for years. I never knew that. She was like, y'all need to stop fighting. You need to go. Don't take a shower. Go down there and walk and give Charles a hug. Y'all are brothers. So I had to leave because his mom and my mom was on the phone. So I met him in the hallway. My bad, bro. Love you. So then, a couple months after that, it's the first time I saw my mom and his mom interact. And they do the same thing we do. You don't know how to play no cards. And I'm like, no, it's a set.
So you get it honest.
So it's a setting. People ask me all the time, do you really hate Charles? No, Charles is the big brother that I never had. I want to beat him up, but it'll never go there.
But let me say something. Everything he just said is 100% correct. But that night he was mad.
Is that the night you're talking about, though?
Yeah,
we don't go to 1, 2, back to 1. We go 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And you just
No,
but here's the deal.
Now you were sitting there in the middle.
Okay, yeah, because we're doing a sponsored element, and it's on the clock. So we kind of say, okay, in the next minute and a half, let's do this topic. And then we really don't stick to the minute and a half. We've gone over it before. Listen.
He don't stick to the minute and a half.
So here's what we go. So Kenny, you weigh in first, and Kenny gives his opinion. Charles gives his opinion. I'm about to go to Shaq for his opinion. Charles interrupts and says, and I also want to say this. And then he clams up and just like,
no.
And I said, look, we still got time.
No, because you know
Shaq,
what?
we still have time for your. He says, no, you're not supposed to go. You're supposed to go 1 to 2 to 3, not 1 to 2 to back to 1.
No, because he was talking the second time, and TK was in my ear. We got 15 seconds left. Ernie's like, you want to win? I was like, no, I don't want to win.
I don't want those 15 seconds.
Yeah, no, I don't want. You sure?
No, because he wasn't talking the whole time.
I was doing timber.
I was.
And you know what? He was hot.
He was hot.
He was hot.
He was hot. I was like, oh, this is the night. Inside the game.
And
This is the last episode.
He wouldn't speak to us for the rest of the night.
And that's what good speak to us. And this is what I never understood.
No,
I
because
said,
y'all been laughing.
he says, Charles, you can't go back to 1. And he says, I'm laughing. He goes, and I'm not talking to you because you're laughing. I'm like, I didn't see you doing it. Hey, you know me. You know I'm here. Don't go here with me. I'm like, I didn't even do anything but laugh.
And the next show, we were still like
it
the
was
three
a
of
little
us
tight.
were kind of like
It was a little tight.
like Shaq sat down for pregame and wasn't really saying anything, and we were kind of looking at each other like, is he still mad? Or should I?
This is a week later.
A week later?
I said, what if I say, hey, are we going to go 1 to 2 to 3 tonight? And I think that's funny. And I was like, I'm just not even going to say it. He's better now, though.
Yeah.
Is he?
He likes us.
I've forgotten all about that.
How many years have you done it, Kenny?
This is 21.
21
Blackjack.
for you.
Blackjack.
You're the newcomer.
What,
12? No, 7.
Like he was 12 was your first year? Like
No, I got
8
11.
years?
8.
Yeah, 8.
8 years.
2012.
No plans to break up this band anytime soon. I got it.
I hope not.
I love my job.
Well, I've seen what you do. I mean, I think it's a stretch to call what you do work.
Oh, they pay you. That's how you call it a job. I realistically, Craig, I'm being honest. I want to do it at least 4 more years because I don't want to work past 60.
Well, stop it.
No, I mean, look, it has nothing to do. I love my job, but I don't want to work to the day I kill over.
Craig, this is the problem I have when he always says this.
You said that
You
30
work
times already.
1 time a week.
Yes.
So you have 6 days off. And he's complaining about the one. You're on a vacation now.
I was thinking
you're
it.
you're
I'm
on
glad
a
you said
vacation
it.
right
But
now.
hold on. Actually, he don't work because during the break, they got like a room with 20 TVs. He's watching Scandal and Friends.
The Good Doctor.
Yeah, The Good Doctor.
Amsterdam.
Thank you for naming it NBC show. I appreciate that.
I love Amsterdam.
Thank you.
Oh, I love Amsterdam.
But you do the prep work. I mean, you're doing all the homework.
Yeah,
The prep work, no. He
Craig,
Yeah.
I played in the NBA for 16 years.
But you-
There's nothing gonna happen on a basketball court.
You're right.
Nothing gonna happen on a basketball
Literally.
court. Well, I'm gonna say, "Oh my God, I don't know what to say on TV."
But
Well,
Charles,
but that's what we've been saying. We talk about the production meeting. It
Yeah.
started with that. Charles and I said, "What's going to happen on a basketball court that I haven't seen done or been part of?"
Guards, forwards, centers.
Nothing's between the three of us. Nothing's going to happen.
but what about storylines that emerge?
There's no
during this-
storyline that could happen
Okay.
in a basketball game that
seen
we
it all.
haven't been part of, seen.
And in fairness, when I first got the job, I went to the first production meeting, and they were like, "Well, if this happens, I'm like, "Yeah, I would know what to say if it happened." I said, "Hey guys, I'm glad to have this job, but this is it for me on these production meetings. I'm not coming back."
Thank God you go, Ernie. Thank God you go.
Well, you know what, and the years
I
of playing
went to work. I
experience,
did the same as
the
Joe.
years of experience these guys have, and you can say whatever you want about a production meeting and what you go over. There is still going to be the night a couple of years ago when the Warriors were playing, and this is when they were still in Oakland, where I referenced the fact that, hey, let's go to Oakland for the highlights. And this big fella on the end says, "Why do you keep saying Oakland?" I said, "Because that's where they're playing the game."
And
he
I never
said,
knew that.
"What do you mean?" I said, "That's where the Warriors play." And he said, "I never knew that. This is
never
live."
knew that.
I
thought it was
thought
San
it was San
Francisco.
Francisco.
I did, the whole
I said,
time.
"Hold it." And he said, "Yeah, I used to just get on the bus.
Just
I
get
didn't
on
know
the
what was
bus,
going
put
to
my
Oakland."
headphones on.
But
I never knew that.
hotel would always be at San Francisco.
Be in San
He never
Francisco,
realized
and
they
then
were
we
going
get-
over
yeah,
to
I never
Oakland.
knew that.
Thank God Ernie's in the production meeting.
But the one thing about Shaq that's so pure and what makes our job some nights, he says some things that we almost blew up the internet. Like tonight, we were doing a tribute to John Glenn, and he says, "I wonder how far is it to the moon?" And then he says, "Well, it's probably farther to California than it is to the moon." And Ernest says, "Excuse me?" He said, "When you walk outside, you can see the moon, but you can't see California." And we're like,
Just think about it. That's all I want you to do.
just think about
That's all I want
it.
you to do.
You
Just
walk
think about it.
outside.
When I walk outside, the
And-
moon
and
is right
Craig,
there.
He's trying to explain this to us on live television.
But he has a shock value. Shaq feels
No,
like-
no, no.
He's got
I'm
like
serious.
8 PhDs.
I'm
So
serious
some of
about
it's
that.
shock back,
No, I'm-
and some of it's real.
Yeah.
But you don't. When he meshes them together.
No, no. First of all, they don't matter.
You don't
Hey,
know.
hey, Shaq, tell Craig about your gas thing.
Oh, my gosh.
What gas thing?
I was buying a new car,
Okay.
and I said, "Well, I don't really want to get that because I got to keep stopping for gas if I get that car."
Yeah.
And he says,
He spends $80 from 0 to full, right?
Yeah.
So when it gets to full, when it gets to half, just spend 20 and just keep going to the top. And you won't have to. And you won't have to spend the 80.
"I said, I said it's miles per gallon.
no,
it doesn't matter. I'm still stopping.
no.
and staying around."
Yeah, he said, yeah.
If you're at half and you go back to 0, then you got to do another 80. Yeah, so
Hey, this is what we
40.
work with. And he's saving money, Craig.
Listen,
And you asked,
I never let my gas tank get past that.
and you
ever.
asked what makes
I
the
just
show
put 20
go,
in, I put
and that's
10
what
in.
makes the basketball show go. Is that the day after people aren't talking about
But you're right.
basketball stuff; they're talking about how far away is the moon, how do you save money on gas and that kind of thing. So it's a basketball show that dabbles in basketball.
Right. Basketball kind of takes
You
a
know
back
why I
seat.
know it's
Yes.
funny? Because everybody a cameraman right now.
No.
It's like watching the show.
Look at this. They're laughing. He's red-faced in the back. Like,
And,
that's
and,
funny.
and he is
This is based on
100%
fact.
serious.
No, listen.
I mean, we argued about this for 2 weeks.
No, you did.
Oh, yes, we did. Because he
Correct.
wouldn't let it go.
Because you know why? Because it's based on fact. I drive.
See?
You just let me explain.
Shaq,
30 seconds.
okay.
I drive from Orlando to Atlanta, which is 6 hours. I got a big Shaq bus, right? It costs me $200 to fill up, right? So when I fill it up, by the time I get to half, right, which is Valdosta, Georgia, I'll put in another 50. That'll bring me up to 3/4. Then I get home, right? So, let me finish. Remember, it cost me $200. So now I'm 50 days old. So now when I get home, I'm at 3/4. I come back to Valdosta. I put in another 50. I make it back home. I just saved $100. Right?
I know.
Valdosta?
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, Valdosta is halfway
But
between.
when you drop to the grocery store, you run out of gas 5 minutes later.
I got to ask some NBA questions.
It works.
Are the
Why?
leagues gonna?
See, that's why we feel. Why do we have to talk
I just
basketball?
saved $100. Trust me.
All-Star game, halfway point of the season. If we had to assess where the league is right now, I mean, the Bucks look good, the Heat look good. If you had to pick a champ right now, who would you pick?
I would have to go with Milwaukee.
The Bucks.
I like the way Giannis is playing. You know, the great John Wooden said the true definition of a great player is those that make the ones around them better. He don't really have a lot of big name players on his team, but they're playing. They only lost 7 to 8 games. You know, I also like the fact this summer they said, Giannis, you gonna go work out with LeBron and them? He said, no. I'm staying in Milwaukee. I'm working out by myself. He wants to be the man. You know, wasn't really drafted very high, but you know he's finding his niche, and you know he's becoming great, and he wants to be the best player in the league, and it's showing. So, to answer your question, I'm gonna go with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, glad you gave him a documentary answer. He asked you
I
one
know
question.
you ain't talking. I know you
asked
ain't
you one
talking.
question. You think he
Motor
got
mouth.
time to
See?
One answer.
That'll eat up the whole segment.
I don't think they'll use the whole thing. There's this editing process.
Okay.
It sounds like you want to chime in.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Clippers. You asked a simple question.
The Clippers. Why the Clippers, Charles?
I think
No.
they got a terrific coach, and Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George and Harrell. They're gonna be tough to beat.
I think the Milwaukee Bucks.
I took my answer.
Yeah, I think that they. I don't think you turn it on and off. I think you're on, and when you're on, and you could see from a championship trajectory, you see the momentum build and how it's building with Milwaukee, and that's the only team that I see that doing it with right now.
I said it on opening night. Milwaukee will beat the Clippers in the NBA Finals. Said it on opening night, so I'll just stick with that right
Milwaukee
now.
will beat the Clippers.
In the finals.
And that would be great for the NBA.
See? 1, 2, 3, 4 is supposed to be over. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 back to 1.
1, 2, 3, back to 1, and then to 2.
He always has that. He always has that.
No,
Back to one.
Always.
But I would say that it'd be great for the NBA if the Milwaukee won because they're considered a small market.
Would that be great for TV? I'm just.
Yes.
No, it'd be great for the game.
Okay.
And first of all, it'd be great to watch Giannis play. If you don't like watching Giannis play, you don't know anything about basketball as a fan.
Wouldn't it be a great storyline though if the Lakers were in the finals this year?
Oh, it'd be a great story, but I'm saying it's for a small market.
Yeah. It's been a season of great loss so far as well for the NBA, starting with David Stern, the former NBA commissioner, on New Year's Day. What did David Stern mean to the league for folks who aren't familiar with him?
Well, I think he meant everything because he came into the league my first year. You know, Craig, everybody look at how great the NBA is today and how much money everybody makes. When I first came to the NBA, remember going back, the league was considered too black, a bunch of thugs. Our games were tape delayed, things like that. And the average salary was $200,000. Now, the average salary, every game's on television pretty much now. The average salary is $7 million since Commissioner Stern. That's amazing. I mean, he's the greatest commissioner in sports, and let me tell you something. There's nothing worse than getting called into his office. I've had 3 or 4 major screw-ups, and he did not take any prisoners when he got you in that office. But at the end, he always tell you, grow up, young man. You can do better. And I'll always appreciate him.
It was the loss of 2 men to me, Craig, who were men of great vision and drive. I think David Stern had this global view of the game, the way he wanted it to be perceived and where he could take it, and he worked to that end. And Kobe had the vision. You know, I remember these 2 guys on draft night. You know, it's every kid's dream to go up and shake the commissioner's hand, and his dream was to be the next Michael and beyond. And how do you do that? The work ethic of both Kobe Bryant and David Stern, to say, I'm going to reach that even though you may have doubters. I think that's what was kind of a hallmark of both of their lives.
Yeah.
I caught the tribute show you guys did from the Staples Center. It was undeniably the most moving show that you guys have ever done. How hard was that?
I think Shaq would probably start off with that.
It was very hard. I've never seen anything like this before. As a youngster coming into the league, and Charles always talks about this, you go into the All-Star game and you see trophies walking around. Remember my first All-Star game, I'm like, man, there's Bill Russell. Oh my God, there's Dr. J. Oh my God, there's Big O. And this is the first time I've seen a guy who just retired pass away. I saw a photo the other day, I'm going to get it to you, on the internet with a picture of me in a gray beard and Kobe in a gray beard. That's what I would have liked it to have been. I was at the house the day it happened, and my son brought me the thing. And you know how the internet is. I was like, stop playing with me. Get out of my face with that right now. Just stop. And then I got the calls. Kenny called me. And it was just devastating. And it's just something that it's gonna touch me forever. I lost a sister a couple months back. Never imagined that my little sister be gone before me. And then to have a guy who helped me become as big as I am, because I realize that even though I'm Shaq, it's always a team that helped me become who I am. Even now, I got 15, 20 commercials. I have a lot of people working for me at the team. Like this show, it's a team. And, he's done a lot for my career, and we will always be forever linked. But I'm 47 years old. I've never seen a legend that I can't touch. And this is going to hurt forever.
I thought of you immediately as soon as I got word on that Sunday, because I said to my wife, I just saw Shaq 2 days ago.
Yeah,
we were laughing, and have you been surprised? Have any of you been surprised at the outpouring?
No.
Not at all.
No, I think the one thing, even for me, I never realized how much I admired him until he passed. I was like, man, I really did admire this guy like that, and it hit me. But the most important part was him, the transformation as a father. That hit me probably the most, watching that. And I think it's a relatable tragedy because what he was doing, he was being a soccer dad, soccer mom. Like we all jump in a minivan. We all do that with our kids. He was doing it in a helicopter. And so you understand what he was doing, and you understand that the effort that he was trying to put forth to just make his daughter happy, because being in the NBA, WNBA, all that stuff is fairy tales. But you're really doing it to spend time with your kids. And if you're coaching your kids, because I do that, and we practice at the Mamba Center, my teams. We're there 3 times a week. I'm in the Mamba Center. You run into him, you see his teams, you see his daughters. And it was just like surreal to see the same route that he's taking on a helicopter. That's the route I take driving. All of that was like overwhelming at the moment for me. But I looked at it more as not a great player, but a dad was lost and a coach was lost.
And for me, me and Kobe were not close, but I just started crying when I got the news. I felt like I had lost a member of my family. I mean, I had just come out of a movie, and I never take my phone in the movie. And when I came out and I had a bunch of missed calls and texts, and I just, wow. And then I just started crying because I felt like I had lost a member of my family. But what's interesting about the whole thing, when we went to L.A. to do that tribute show, that's when I think the gravity of the entire situation, to see tens of thousands of people just standing there. And that was like 3 days later. That was like 3 days later. I'd watched all the coverage on television, but when we went to L.A. to do the tribute show, it was a gloom that I had never experienced before. Like that whole city was depressed, and there was people just standing outside. I was just watching them, and I just felt sad.
And let me say something about that show too, because you talk about watching it and kind of saying, "Well, I've never seen a show like this." 30 years, I'd never been involved in a show like that, and to see just emotions laid bare right there, from Shaq speaking publicly about it for the first time to Jerry West, who had made the draft night deal to get him to L.A. and was like a dad to him. And Jerry West was just, he was so open and honest and just let the emotions flow. And what nobody knows about that show is that it was produced to be like 5 or 6 segments, you know, in this hour show. And you know how these shows have to run, because you got to get these commercials in and these commercials in and these. And so we have this long first segment and then take a break. We come back, Reggie Miller, Jerry West with us, and it became a 2-segment show. And our producer, Jeremy Levin, got in touch with our sales folks and said, you know, you're watching how this show is developing, aren't you? We can't cut away from it. And to their credit, they said, just take it to the top of the hour till the game starts. Wow. So I got a cue in my ear from Jeremy. He said, it's 1:15 right now, just keep on going. And wow. And having that kind of freedom to do that and to recognize and say, look, the commercials don't matter in this thing. What matters is this is healing a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And
healing the country.
Yeah, and it was helping. I think people who were watching the show were probably like, man, it's good to hear that or see that, and it's good to see a guy like that who's.
You see Jerry West.
Oh, it was.
You see Jerry West talking about he'll never get over it. He said, I don't know if I can get over this, and crying like. Jerry West is one of the greatest men I've ever met. I'm not talking about from a basketball standpoint. He's one of the greatest men I ever met. And for me, somebody I really admire and respect, to see him, a guy who's 70-some years old, crying. Like, actually, when I got off the show that night, that was the first time I felt better. That was the first time I felt better. Like, I had been sad and in pain. After that show, and I want to give TNT credit, because I wasn't sure we should do the show, to be honest with you. I wasn't sure we should do it. Because I'm like, yo, man, I do not want to go to L.A. because that's what it's got. Like, because that place was so depressing even when we got there. But after the show, we got back to the hotel. That was the first time I was like, I do feel better. I do feel better.
It was therapeutic. Another great Laker wrote something this morning. I don't know if you've had the chance to read it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he wrote a piece, and he wrote, in part, that, quote, Kobe was even more exceptional because he learned from his mistakes and devoted himself to being a better person. Was that your experience, knowing him from a teenage phenom to a doting father of 4?
The only experience that made sense to me is that we challenge each other to make history. When I first got to L.A., when I first signed to L.A., I'm going to sign a big contract, and the first thing Jerry West says to me, I'm trying to get a sign. He said, I just got this kid, Kobe Bryant. You guys gonna win a couple championships. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Put the paper down so I can sign it, because our stuff is guaranteed. So I know once I sign it, I'm cool. He kept saying his name. So from day one, we started competing with each other. And then once we figured it out, the fact that we were competing with each other, 2 of the best players in the league on the same team, I figured, okay, let me keep the others involved. We're going to do what we do. And we were an unstoppable force. Because another thing Jerry West did when I came, he sat me down and he said, look up. He said, all those jerseys. He said, Shaq, you're a good player. You're not a great player. He said, you're pretty good. He said, at the end of this contract, or when you're done playing, you could either be up there or you could be a bust. I said, what do you mean? He said, right now you're rapping, you're doing movies, you're doing that. A lot of people don't think you're dedicated. I believe in you. I believe in Kobe. I think you guys can get multiple championships. So the first 4 years we failed, And I always remember Michael Jordan telling me after they swept us in Orlando, before you succeed, you must first learn to fail. Now, I'm the type, when I keep failing, I'm real sensitive. Now I got to hear these guys talking about I'm not that good. So now I gotta tighten it down. So now once we figured it out, we're still competing each other, but we're trying to recreate something that Magic and Kareem did. So once we started winning championships, it's all that mattered. And I realized, being a leader, that sometimes you focus on the task, sometimes you focus on the relationship. Studies show when you focus on the task, the relationship dwindles. So a lot of people thought we had problems. It wasn't real life problems. It's just, same problems me and Charles have, and same problem me and Kenny have when we're at work. But the key thing that we always have for each other was respect. Because I always tell people, after we won our first championship, who's the little guy that jumped in my arms? Roll the tape. Roll it. You'll see, it's him. So once we figured it out, that's all that mattered to me, because I wanted to be a winner. I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to have my jersey retired.
Just in the wake of his death, there was this back and forth, at times a heated back and forth, about whether it was even appropriate to bring up allegations from his past. As broadcasters, as journalists, what did you think about that?
For me, we're all imperfect people, but what made Kobe a magnet to the masses around the world, forget LA, around the world. I have friends in the Philippines where everything was lit up purple and gold when Kobe passed. So there's a magnetism that he was able to have. Again, we're all imperfect people, but what we're great at, he was the greatest at times at. So that's what people saw. And so when I saw you pictures of him with his daughter, he's like, I'm challenging you to be the greatest dad. Like, no, I could pay somebody to, coach my daughter who taught me how to play. No, I'm going to be there. And I coach teams, so I understand the mentality. I'm going to be the one who organizes the day. Oh, you got to wear your black uniform today. We play at 9. Nope, they changed the game to 10, and you're getting all. That's a responsibility that you don't have to have. And so he's challenging you, and that's what people call the Mamba mentality. He challenges people. So do I think it was appropriate or inappropriate? I think we all are imperfect, but I think what he has done and challenged the world to be, we all saw.
Craig, okay, me and Ernie had a long discussion about this, because we were talking about Bobby Knight going back to Indiana, which was one of the great things that I've saw in a long time. Bobby Knight is one of the greatest basketball coaches ever. I admire him, I respect him, but he had flaws. Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest basketball players ever, and he had a flaw that we all know about. You have to tell you have to tell the picture in totality. We're not trying to make Kobe out to be no hero. We're celebrating his basketball